wasn't a foul. Play on. No fair, ref. You always side with them.
Do you remember the exact sound of a dial-up modem? That harsh mechanical symphony of beeps, static, and robotic screeches that echoed through the house as your computer tried to connect to the internet. It wasn't just a sound, it was a signal, a portal opening between two worlds. If that noise instantly triggered a memory in your mind, then you probably remember other things too. The feeling of sitting at a bulky desktop computer in the family room, the rule that no one could use the phone while you were online, the way you had to memorize your best friend's home phone number because there was no contact list to save it for you. Moments like these belong to a very specific group of people. You are part of what researchers often call the Xennial generation, those born roughly between 1977 and 1983. Sometimes called the Oregon Trail generation, Xennials grew up between two completely different worlds. From a psychological perspective, that timing may have shaped your brain in a very unusual way, because you grew up just before the internet stopped being a tool and started becoming an environment.
That was totally a foul!
It wasn't a foul. Play on. No fair, ref. You always side with them.
Draw a circle right here for the safe zone. No, it should be a square. A circle is better. That was totally a foul. You hit my arm. No way. I got the ball first. It was clean. We said no contact.
To understand why this matters, we have to rewind the tape back to a typical Saturday afternoon in the early 1990s. There were no smartphones buzzing in your pocket, no tablets glowing in the corner of the room, no endless feeds waiting to fill every quiet moment. If you wanted to see your friends, you didn't send a text. You got on your bike and rode across the neighborhood. If they weren't home, you didn't check their location or message them online. You simply waited, or you tried somewhere else. A lot of childhood during that time was unplanned and unsupervised. You invented games, you explored the neighborhood, you negotiated the rules of play with other kids in real time. In developmental psychology, this kind of experience is known as unstructured play, and it plays a powerful role in shaping the brain. When children are not constantly directed by screens, schedules, or algorithms, their minds have to generate stimulation internally. That means imagination activates. Problem-solving skills develop. Social intelligence grows as kids learn how to cooperate, argue, compromise, and repair conflicts face-to-face. Your brain wasn't being entertained every second. It was being trained. And this is a key difference between analog childhoods and digital ones. In a pre-algorithm world, entertainment wasn't instantly delivered to you. You had to create it yourself. Without realizing it, you were building something psychologists now consider incredibly valuable: cognitive independence, the ability to engage your own mind without needing constant external stimulation. That early training would later become far more important than anyone in the 1990s could have imagined. One of the most overlooked parts of growing up in the analog world was something most kids today rarely experience: real boredom. Not the kind of boredom where you scroll through 5 different apps looking for something interesting, but the deeper kind, the quiet, empty space where nothing is happening and your brain has no immediate stimulation to grab onto. For many Xennials, this was a normal part of everyday life. Waiting in the car, sitting through a long afternoon, lying on the floor staring at the ceiling with nothing to do. In psychology, boredom is not actually a flaw in the system. It's a feature of how the brain develops. When the mind is not constantly stimulated by external rewards, a network in the brain known as the default mode network becomes active. This is the system responsible for daydreaming, imagination, self-reflection, and creative thinking. In other words, boredom forces the brain to turn inward. But boredom wasn't the only hidden training of the analog era. There was also delayed gratification. Imagine wanting to hear your favorite song in the early 90s. You couldn't just open an app and press play. You had to wait for it to appear on the radio, sometimes for hours, fingers hovering over the record and play buttons on a cassette player. Neurologically, moments like these train patience. Your brain learned that rewards often required waiting, effort, and timing. Without realizing it, you were developing a mental muscle that is becoming increasingly rare in the age of instant gratification. Then, something remarkable happened. Just as you were entering your late teens or early 20s, the internet arrived. Not gradually, but like a sudden cultural shift that rewired how the world communicated. You probably remember the early signs of it. The excitement of logging into AIM chat rooms, carefully crafting an away message with song lyrics that perfectly matched your mood. Discovering early social networks like MySpace, where your top 8 friends could spark real-life drama. But here's the crucial psychological detail. For Xennials, the internet was never the background of life. It was a destination. You didn't live online, you went online. You physically sat down at a computer, waited for the connection, logged in, did what you needed to do, and eventually logged off. And once you stepped away from that screen, the digital world essentially disappeared. Your brain categorized the internet as a tool, not a habitat. This distinction matters far more than it might seem. By the time the internet began shaping culture in a major way, your core identity had already been forming in the physical world. Your sense of self, your social confidence, and your understanding of relationships were built through face-to-face interactions, not through metrics like likes, views, or followers. Psychologists often point out that identity formation during adolescence is critical. And for Xennials, that developmental stage happened largely offline. So when the digital world expanded, you were able to adapt to it quickly. But deep down, your brain still remembered something important. Life existed perfectly well without it. Fast forward to today, and the internet has transformed into something very different from the one you first logged into. Early social media platforms were relatively simple. Your feed showed posts from friends in chronological order. You logged in, checked a few updates, maybe uploaded a photo from a party, and then moved on with your day. But modern platforms operate on a completely different principle. They are powered by algorithms, complex systems designed to study your behavior and predict what will keep your attention for as long as possible. Every pause, every click, every second you spend watching something becomes data. Over time, these platforms learn exactly how to keep you scrolling. From a psychological perspective, many of these systems rely on a principle known as variable reward schedules, the same mechanism used in slot machines. Sometimes you see something exciting, sometimes you don't. But the unpredictability keeps your brain pulling the lever, refreshing the feed, searching for the next dopamine hit. This is part of what researchers now call the attention economy. Your focus has become the product, and the algorithm constantly experiments with emotional triggers that are difficult for the human brain to ignore, things like outrage, social comparison, fear of missing out, and the desire for validation. For younger generations who grew up with these systems from childhood, the digital world often feels like the default environment of life. But psychologically, that's not the world your brain was built in.
Stop! Do not touch that phone! I am connecting to the internet right now.
Check out this photo I just took.
Oh wow, that looks amazing! Where was that?
This is where the hidden advantage of Xennials truly appears. Because your identity formed before the rise of social media, your sense of self was built in a world without likes, followers, or algorithmic validation. Your reputation came from real-life interactions, conversations, shared experiences, awkward moments, and genuine friendships that existed completely offline. That foundation matters more than it might seem. Psychologically, it creates a kind of distance from the algorithm. When modern social media begins to feel overwhelming, when the endless scrolling starts to drain your energy, many Xennials experience something researchers call algorithm fatigue. Your brain recognizes the noise, and more importantly, it remembers an alternative. You remember a world where you could leave the house and be completely unreachable, a world where entertainment didn't follow you everywhere, and where your value wasn't measured in notifications. Because of that memory, stepping away from the digital world isn't a strange idea for you. It's something your brain already understands. And that might be the quiet superpower of your generation. You grew up in the real world, and no algorithm can rewrite that foundation. If this video brought back memories for you, let me know in the comments. What is one thing from the analog world you truly miss? And if you enjoy deep dives into psychology like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos exploring the hidden patterns of human behavior.
Watch this. I'm going for the win.
No way.